Okay. Expecting Frode. Let's see if my audio settings are correct. Speaker, microphone, okay. That seems to work. Frode.
Hello. Sorry, I'm just having my lunch.
I do apologize for being distracted lately and not being regular on these calls.
That's okay. How's the move going? What's the stage you're at?
Well, I think everything that I need to do short of the actual physical move has been arranged. You know, the paperwork with the company is done. I went to go find a place, signed the papers, made a deposit. Now the difficult thing is trying to find a good internet service provider. I may have to install a microwave link. All the satellite dishes are not good, and there's no fiber to that particular location. So what I'm looking at right now is a microwave that can still get what they claim is pretty good ping time. You know, low latency, 10 milliseconds. So that should work, but it's very expensive, like $200+ a month. But that looks like it'll solve the job. And then now I got to worry about my physical move, which I just had an estimate done, and it's gobs and gobs of money. It's like $18,000 to move everything, but I may have to just give everything away. I can't afford that much.
I know, it's a problem. Moving is expensive.
I think I'll just give away everything and buy it again. That'll be less than $18,000.
And there's some of the heavy stuff.
Well, the problem is I've got about 50 boxes of old papers, that I can't take the time to go sort through, and that's thousands of pounds right there. So I think I'll leave behind most of the furniture.
Well, that is very exciting indeed.
What? Sorry, I spoke when you spoke.
I just said it's very exciting indeed.
It is. It's getting me this close to being on the edge financially, but I still would rather do it than stay here. And are you still trying to sell your place and get into a new one?
Yeah, but there's a referendum here about whether the UK should leave the EU. So house prices are basically, people aren't interested at the moment. They want to see what happens.
So it's a good time to buy, but not a good time to sell?
Something like that. So it's a bit stressful.
Yeah. How's Emily?
The funeral was on Sunday, so things are moving along. It was a beautiful day. But difficult. So we need to decide a few things about the time browser.
And future of text and PFTF. I did go through your very good detailed demo write-up, and I hope you saw those comments. Didn't understand one of your responses, though, which was this real-time time tagging business.
Let me put away this plate, and I'll give you my 100% attention. One minute, one second.
Wait. Why don't you finish your lunch? We can, chat personal stuff until then.
I have finished. I'm just putting away my plate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what statement are you talking about?
Something about real-time time tagging in the file. I think I made a suggestion, something like, I'd like to be able to share streams even before the event is done. Remember that one? And then you said something like, well, the real-time time tagging is going to be done something, but I didn't see how it connected to my comment. Or maybe it's the wrong comment. I don't know.
Can you have a look? It's probably under the recording sessions. I'll put the link in Skype for you if you don't already have it up.
Okay, so I only see one comment from you left, and that is the two. Okay. So the not copy, yeah. See, Frode, I really do think that this copy business is evil. So that's why I would much prefer transclusion or linking or citation versus copying.
If someone is writing a document to hand in to a teacher for their studies,
yep.
How would you then?
It's a transcluded the content. If I've got, a document and paragraph 7 is transcluded content from your article A, then it still appears and it's cited properly.
So if they're using Microsoft Word, can you explain how transclusions would work in that context?
Microsoft Word doesn't do that. So the only thing you can do in Microsoft Word is a link.
The thing that I think is really important with your map, which I would like to go through again, is I think we need to put some foundational technologies that are already there, such as domains, such as links, and such as the internet itself.
Yes.
Because I think it's really, really important these things are open and connected. Yes, of course, transclusions are great. But the reason, when I use the term copy here, I'm not talking about copying a chunk of text as such. I'm really talking about copying an address.
Okay, that's a good distinction, because copying content, I believe, is evil. Copying an address and using it is a citation of a sort. And that, of course, is necessary. But copy of content, copy of files, boy, that's evil. That's evil if you believe in collaborative knowledge work. It is not evil if you want to just hoard things and create your own private repositories and not share the results of your work. Then, of course, copy is a good thing.
I'm not sure if I fully agree with this. I know it's a very unpopular thing to disagree with, but what we're trying to build, it's really, really important for me that it's compatible with the rest of the world systems, and also that it's really robust. And remember, back in the day with paper, you took a photocopy.
Absolutely. Those are evil actions, yes. So
no, it also adds redundancy.
Okay.
Because you don't think of the knowledge as existing in that piece of paper. You think of it as being, like a scientific paper, that the knowledge is off the address, off that volume, right?
Yeah, but look at what happens with newspapers, right? People are misquoted all the time. And those misquotations are actually then taken and then used in other works and other citations. And then, you don't have a good traceable epistemology. So the fact
I agree with that. But I don't see that necessarily crashes into it, because if you do a proper normal citation, especially a digital one, you will open up where the original source is. You can see it in context anyway.
Yeah, so long as you do have that traceability, then I think copy, if you really need it, if the app is not capable of transclusion, then that copy is in a sense a cache, okay? And caches, of course, are temporary. The problem with documents is they're not temporary. So now you've got this cached content that is not temporary, that now looks authoritative, but is really not. And that distinction is what kills me. If there was a clear way to always indicate this cached copy of content is not authoritative, the authoritative version is over here, and if that can always be maintained, then I'm okay with copies in a cached sense.
I'm not sure if I fully agree with that either, because if the notion of something that is always dynamic.
I can't hear you again now. Your microphone seems to have been jostled.
Okay. How about now?
No. Did you jostle your microphone in some way? Because all of a sudden the volume from your mouth went down about 10 or 20 times.
But is it still down?
Okay, now it's better. What did you do?
No, I did. I just waited. Right. I'm not sure if I agree there either, because fully dynamic information, even though my whole philosophy is called liquid information, I think that the notion of a document as a frozen artifact is really important. Because I believe that a document is one human perspective at one point in time.
I don't disagree with that. I think a document should be a permanent item. But that permanent item, if it's actually got transcluded content from other published works, permanent items, then that transclusion is persistent.
What if you lose the original? What if that disappears in a fire? They only serve it.
Problem, okay? That's the problem. So either we're going to work on the premise that we're going to work on very resilient and, let's say, anti-fragile repositories, or we work on the notion that, oh, we got to copy everything because we can't count on anything. Those are fundamental architecture questions.
I think we should do both. The way that the notion of author is dealing with this anyway is that when you do a citation, you can choose to, well, it would normally copy the entire thing you are citing into it, but with an address to where you found it. So when you then read it, you can have an overview in there, and then you can instantly verify by looking at the original source if it's still available. Okay,
so I can say that I cannot prove this, but I'm going to actually disagree with you that we should do both. Because in the architectural sense, if we do both, in other words, if at every level or every component of your architecture, you're trying to solve every problem simply because you don't trust the other components, your architecture is going to be overly complicated, bulky, bloatware, slow, non-secure, blah, 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 hard to write, hard to maintain, hard to extend, bad architecture. So if you are able to trust the other components in the architecture and then live with the 0.001 or 0.00001 failure rates, then at least you have at least some way of building up a relatively clean and simple architecture. I really disagree with the responsibilities that need to be levied on every single component. Now, obviously, this is an evolutionary concept. Biology doesn't work this way, but software architecture in its current state of practice, unfortunately, is this way. So my statement would be, it would be extremely complicated to build architecture that in each component have to solve problems simply because they don't trust the other component.
Yes, however, I would say that we are not building architecture, we are contributing to existing architecture.
Same thing, sort of.
No, it's not, because if we were to start this fresh, I would be very NLS oriented and maybe even some of Ted's ideas. However, the way that I see Time Browser working and all these other things is if you are using Microsoft Word, you should be able to integrate with the system. It's kind of the stupidest common denominator. So that's why
you should be able to do it to the extent that your app is capable. And, if you've got, let's say, Author with this level of capability and Word with this capability, Author should not suffer simply because they're trying to be interoperable with Word. Word should not expect to do everything that Author does simply because it's not capable of it, right?
Right. Well, that's why I'm, at least at this point, okay with the notion of citations that refer back to something, and you have some of it in the documents.
Yes, I did say that was okay, so long as it was possible to indicate that the authoritative source was elsewhere. And let's say, here's the authoritative source. Let's say Doug said blah, right, over here. Now, you cite that in Article A, and you cite this blah from Doug. Now, I then see your article and say, wow, that's really brilliant. Now, I create Article B, and I cite your work. At that point, if I'm utilizing Doug's statement blah, I should be citing all the way through to blah and making reference to you and crediting you but basically epistemologically be based on blah rather than what you say about blah. What you say about blah, if it's value add, I also cite. But blah, the statement itself, is cited in the original document, not in yours. Is that too complicated?
No, I don't have a problem with that. And the way that even current author is implemented, that's how it works.
Good. Good.
You know, you usually, well, of course, the end user can choose to be stupid, but you know that's another thing. But right, so we're kind of okay with the. Where is that document? It's not loaded. Google Docs says, hang on.
So that's the notion, just to wrap it up, is copy as cache, kind of okay, okay? In other words, being pragmatic, recognizing today's architecture, I will go with that. However, if we're really trying to build a future-oriented knowledge infrastructure, I would take another look at that. So that's comment one from you. Comment number two from you was, I said any web browser suffices, no special app required. And you're saying does not have to be a web browser. Any reading app should be able to access and present. This is, I guess, subject to design and, you know, our specific use cases and user stories. I'm just thinking, you know, use whatever capability you've got to look at this content, which we're already saying is HTML content. So the app that's really built to handle HTML content is a web browser. So why not just say web browsers can read all this because web browsers are everywhere. Excuse me, I have an alarm going on. I'm going to turn it off. Okay, I'm back.
Right, okay. There is, do you remember we talked about this related time issue of recording small video clips and have it play back?
What's the issue?
We talked about it briefly, but I hate Zoom. Whenever I go to Zoom, the tiny little sign-in thing obscures the screen. And then now it won't play.
Because you're on a tiny screen.
Huh?
You can move it inside.
The Zoom button, everything's just frozen. The Zoom, like, preference screen won't move away. Right, yes.
Move? That's a problem.
I'll just leave it for a bit. Anyway.
That's not a Zoom problem.
No, it is. It's just, well, the frozen thing is, of course, a Mac thing, but the fact that it's always there, and it has the sign-in button. Anyway, so this other one is a relatively simple idea, but it has some implications. It's the one where, let me just walk you through a very simple use case. Let's say there's a famous NASA scientist. He or she has a phone app or whatever and answers questions. There could be something like, what's your favorite color? The person answers that question, done. And of course, then you could have an interesting situation with students contributing questions like, you know, why is this blue thing on Mars in the upside down direction, or whatever it might be. So the thing is, of course you can have videos of people now. Of course you can write things down. But so easily, when you have this question and answer format, and it's only one answer, I think we can easily build an interface where once there's a little bit in the corpus, someone can say, what's your favorite color, by voice even. And then you have this video come up playing back that human saying it. I think it's really powerful. Imagine if we had that with Doug. A couple of hours of that.
Just search with video content?
Imagine, okay, Socrates, right? Yeah. He felt that writing was silly because it's not an aid for memory, it's an aid for reminiscence. He felt that with writing, men could get knowledge into their head without real understanding because you cannot interrogate the text. So obviously what I'm trying to do with my main project is to make the text interrogatable. But what I'm talking about here is really getting to the point where imagine you have 10 hours of Socrates answering questions. You could almost have a dialogue. So I think that the interaction style, rather than doing keyword searches, jumping into some transcription in a long video, completely changes the nature of this.
I think it's okay for 20% of the cases where you'd want to use this. I think for 80%, there's a alarming potential damage that could be done here, because context is a lot of what meaning you extract from a dialogue. And if I'm in a courtroom saying, you know, what does this mean? It's different than you and I in a pub saying, what does this mean, right? I would answer differently.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about something. Okay, imagine if we had this with Doug, right? I did some sessions with him that were very similar. You know, I asked him, is this and this? And he was like, yes, you know, and I recorded this, and it's kind of hidden away in my documentary somewhere. But don't you think, like in the discussions we had with Dino and so on, we're talking about Doug talking about a topic, don't you think it would be useful to, you know, pick up your phone and say, what did Doug say a DKR is as related to an OHS?
Yes, and that's why I say, isn't this just search with video content?
Yeah, but then you could get...
Right? It's search with video and audio content, not just text.
Yeah, but you are... No, it's not search, because searching, navigation, and asking questions are entirely different things. It's not search. Technically, in search,
prompt. If I say, how many eggs are in your pocket, and you say, I've got 14, then I can record that little interaction, and anytime somebody says, Frode, how many eggs do you have in your pocket? You could be asleep, but your avatar says, I've got 14, right?
Exactly, yes. That's the whole point.
Right. So what I'm saying here is, in 20% of the cases, that's actually useful. Because the very next day, you may have 7 eggs in your pocket, not 14, and this thing would be probably incorrect.
Imagine your great-grandfather. Did you meet your great-grandfather?
I got the scenario completely.
Right? But it's an important distinction, because it's not about eggs in pockets. It's not about things that change. It's about asking people, like, you know, if let's say you have hundreds of thousands of these happening, you could now say, what do people think of Trump in Florida? Then you would get, you know, a choice, you know, of what people say, because people have...
So let me give you the ultimate analogy or point, okay? You could do this for Bernie. You couldn't do this for Hillary. Right?
Yep.
And the
Why not?
piece I'm saying is, Bernie is consistent in his political views over 3 or 4 decades. Hillary flip-flops. Okay? Now, I'm making a very political stand here. I understand that, okay?
But in context, who cares?
Context. Right? It's context.
No, yes, it is context, but in this, it's also date tagged. Right? So let's say Hillary answered this over a decade.
Yep.
What's your position on gay marriage? It's bad, it's bad, it's bad. It's excellent.
Right.
You know, you can choose when to see it.
Right. Yes. That's what I'm saying, Frode. This is search, or it's prompt with text, audio, and video content. Time tagged with content.
When you have a conversation with Korea about where to go for dinner,
yep,
would you call that search? I'd call it something quite different.
It's prompted interaction. It's Q&A. It's dialogue. It's conversation.
Right.
So let's say I've got, you know, I asked, where do you want to go for dinner? And I've probably said that 20,000 times in my life, right? Where do you want to go for dinner? All right, maybe 2,000, right? So which of those instances is my avatar going to select?
Then it would have to be a question coming back with interactivity saying, there are several replies to this. Which one from what period are you interested in? Mm-hmm. But I'm not talking about trivial things. I'm not talking about things like that. I'm talking about, you know, for instance, Vint Cerf, right? He's got lots of perspectives on things. Mm-hmm. Do you not think that instead of, you know, okay, he was just in Norway last week and he recorded this long video interview. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But I would be very interested in being able to say, Vint, what do you think of Norway? Or Vint,
for 20% of the cases, this is perfect. I really do think.
But what are these 80%? And how are they relevant?
They're relevant because people's opinions and their philosophies change over time, just as how you and I think about DKR has shifted over the decades. And what we say, therefore, is meaningful in context. This is also one of the best ways that journalism and others create sensational stories, is because misquotation is a standard technique given out of context quotations.
So you think that
quotations serve all kinds of, let's say, populist and journalistic and yellow journalism interests, but not truth.
So you think that Dictapedia is only valuable if it's text? If Dictapedia had...
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
So to explain then, and in terms of knowledge work importance, why Dictapedia is 100% and this is a 20%.
Because Dictapedia encourages multiple meanings. It says, you know, how you use the word DKR and how I use the word DKR all ought to go into the Dictapedia. And
how is that different?
Because it's expecting a single response. When I ask you, what do you want for dinner? You're expecting a single response from the system, right?
No. Sam, you're being obstructive there. And
I'm not. I'm trying to make a point which I believe is crucial. And like I said, I've already granted you the 20% case. I already said this is useful for the very simple cases. Obviously. Yeah, but... And by simple case, I mean where somebody's giving a talk, somebody's giving a paper, somebody's giving an interview. Those are simple cases. They're expected to be on record. They're expected to be quoted.
Sam, look, I don't like this because you, on Wednesdays, you like to go through this large charts of all your projects.
Yes.
Right? And that's cool. However, I wouldn't say to you, Sam, that's 40% of cases, 20% of cases, because no cases are 100%. I don't think that's useful, right? And of course, I'm not talking about what's for dinner. What I'm talking about here is either someone with great knowledge, someone who's been around a couple of 100 years ago, or someone in a different country. You ask clear things. It wouldn't be single answers. And of course, they might change over time. But you really not feel that if, in addition to all the material we have on Doug, if you could ask him a question, maybe when you're just even walking around, you know, Doug, what did you think of so-and-so? It's, well, whatever. Okay, it's a 20%.
That's clearly useful, right? If we took all the existing video and audio of Doug and preceded each of his statements or paragraphs with the appropriate question that would lead to that response, yes, that's usually valuable, right? I agree with you.
That is not what I'm talking about, because he didn't expressly answer a question in a specific way. In all of those cases, we're kind of cheating, and then context becomes important.
Which is what I've been saying.
When it's really clear that someone has sat down.
I think the network connection is bad. Frode, are you still there? Frode dropped off. I'm wondering whether or not he's going to rejoin. Okay, I guess Frode is not going to rejoin. My internet connection seems to be fine. I've been checking on other sites, so it looks like Frode's network connection is not there. Okay, he just says he's lost his connection. What do you want? What do you want? Are you on here? Are you on here, Zeusy? Okay, there's you. There's Zeus. Look at yourself. Look at yourself. Look at yourself.